What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy, and I'm coming at you with an action figure review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Hasbro The Black Series, the Mandalorian Pagodon from The Mandalorian. When I saw this figure get revealed, I was stoked. I love the Season 1 look for The Mandalorian, and I was so excited to see that he is getting updated on the latest and greatest sculpting and articulation from the Black Series line. The Mandalorian is what made me obsessed with Star Wars again in my young adult life, and it's this look of The Mandalorian I have grown extremely nostalgic for, and I'm so amped to have this review out for you. I got this figure on a pre-order through Target's app, and it actually showed up a little bit early. It wasn't supposed to get here until I think March 27th, but it actually showed up on March 22nd, the street date for this figure in brick and mortar stores. So I was super excited to get it at the same time as most people who went out toy hunting. The Mandalorian is a Target exclusive, obviously. That's the only reason I ordered him through Target here in the US for 2026. Looking at the packaging, this is the standard style of packaging for the Black Series this year. We have our Black Series logo on the front of the box, a big plastic window showing you the figure and his accessories. Over here in vertical text, we have the character name, as well as that he is number 45 in the Mandalorian subline. Crazy to think we have that many figures covered for this show just in the Galaxy packaging. Down below the window, we have the banner in the color of the Mandalorian subline with the name of the show. Down below that, more logos and legalese. And then on the side of the box, here we have our mural art. You can see just a big moon shot. This reminds me a lot of the promo art for, I think, Mando Season 3. You have a pretty cool image of the Mandalorian. I feel like his visor is a little big, but I'm not one to nitpick on box art. We have the character name down at the bottom there. And then on the back of the box, we have, of course, our Black Series logo and our mural image a little bit blown up, same as we saw on the side of the box. And then we have our character name and a bio in about 1,000 different languages. This bio reads, "On the ice planet Pagodon, Din Djarin enters a bustling cantina to track down a fugitive Mithril. Please, Hasbro, make Mithril for the Black Series so that I can get him in this line." Down below that, we reiterate he is number 45 in the Mandalorian subline, and then below that we have all our logos and legalese. Guys, please don't feed this action figure to your babies. On this side of the box, we have our wraparound window. We also have our wraparound banner and the Black Series logo once again. On the bottom of the box, even more legalese, and on the top, nothing. That about wraps it up for the packaging, so let's get this guy opened and we'll check him out. Alright, here is Mando out of the box. Before we take a look at the figure, let's of course take a look at his accessories he comes with. So a great accessory for Mando here is actually a swappable hand for just his right hand here. Now you may be wondering, why did they include this? Black Series isn't usually known for including swappable hands on their figures. This hand is made specifically to hold that vibro blade, which we'll check out next. This is something that I think Black Series has been needing to do for a long time. A big frustration with the previous Mandalorian, the Glavis Ringworld from the Book of Boba Fett, while being an amazing, almost a near perfect figure, if that figure has one flaw, it's that it can't hold the Darksaber or his vibro blade very well due to the wider grip, so that he can hold his blaster pistol in his right hand. So they give you an alternate hand here. This could also be used as a thumbs up hand. I love the paint apps on the hand armor here. This is consistent with the paint apps we'll see on the figure. The fingers on the gloves are painted as well, and overall, this is just a really awesome inclusion. In addition to the swappable hand, we of course also have that vibro blade that goes with it. The blade looks to be done in a silver plastic, and then the hilt of the blade is painted in a gunmetal dark gray color. I think this has really nice sculpted detail, and we've seen this vibro blade a couple times now with a couple previous Mando releases. Always a great inclusion. And then finally, of course, we have our blaster pistol for Mando. This is the one that he's had pretty much since the beginning of the show. I think he ends up losing this at the end of Mando Season 3, but apparently he might have it again in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. It has a really nice metallic sculpt to it, and you can see that the wood handle seems to be painted with some nice wood grain effect to it as well. Again, a very nice accessory. I think they nailed the metallic look of this blaster and the vibro blade here. Alright guys, now let's take a look at Mando Mando. Man, I am just feeling so much nostalgia for the original Mando release. I'm so excited to take a close look at this guy. The first thing that I want to point out here is that the helmet is not painted. This is cast in a sparkly, pearlescent silver plastic. This is much better than what we saw on the recent Jango Fett figure, which I do have a review for out on the channel. I really like how much this shines. It's got a good sparkle to it. It catches the light nicely. It actually feels like it's real Beskar instead of just looking like very dull plastic. He does have some nice glossy black painted for the visor here. You can see there's almost no bleeding of the visor onto the helmet. That's awesome. Definitely keep an eye out for that if you see this in store. Do your due diligence and make sure that you're not getting one with a Paint App QC issue. You can also see that he has little bits of dirt and grime that are kind of caught in the grooves of the helmet in there too. That's really cool. You can see this one is just a little bit misaligned ever so slightly on the left side of the helmet, but it's not easy for you to notice, so that's completely fine by me. On the back, you can see he's got all the accurate sculpting details for the helmet, and once again, I'm just really happy with how much that pure Beskar shines in the light with it being pure plastic instead of being painted. Underneath, what I really like here is that you can see it doesn't seem to be a sculpted head sculpted separately from the helmet. This is all one piece. They sculpted a faux head underneath the helmet here. You can see Pedro's hair sculpt in the back there as well. I'm assuming there will be a Mando release pretty soon here that has a removable helmet option, so it's nice that they sculpted the head inside of it, maybe just to future-proof this figure, but I do prefer the head and the helmet all being one piece. I'm very happy to see this. A big plus to this figure, which is another major upgrade over the original one, is that he comes with a soft goods cape. The original figure for this character had a sculpted cape, which kind of hung over to the side, but the problem was if you wanted to put a jetpack, or the Rising Phoenix as they call it, on Mando, you couldn't do that because the sculpted plastic would have to be like hanging out. So I really like that on this remake they did a soft goods piece. Just helps lay a lot better, and I think that the shape of it is also really nice. You can see lots of color that we lack now on the pure Beskar look. Most notably, you can see that his right pauldron here is actually a piece of plastoid shore trooper armor. You can see mine is a little bit warped from the packaging, but this is such thin, pliable plastic that we should just be able to heat this up and fix it no problem at all. You can see it's got a nice shade of blue on the top here, and you can see that underneath that it's got the more khaki color that the shore trooper armor has. I will say there are little hits of silver that are very subtle in the paint. You can even see some scratching on the blue there as well. Very, very nice, and when it catches the light, it shows that this armor has some wear and tear. And while I thought this figure looked very plain in the box, I'm seeing lots of those paint hits all over all different parts of the armor to expose the Beskar beneath. That is really cool. I'm really happy about that. You can see that Mando's left pauldron here is a separate piece. This is actual Beskar here. You can see it's got dents and dings, much like Boba Fett's helmet has in the original trilogy. Both of these shoulder pieces are done on O-ring systems, so they are connected into the torso. Then you have the carapace here that holds the chest plating. You can see the bandolier that attaches to the belt is a separate overlay, so it actually exposes this here. I love this brown color. You can see the heart of the Beskar there with all the dings and dents in it, once again in that bright silver paint. You can see they did actually paint the straps that go over the shoulders here, and then on the back of the carapace we have more brown, and they did include peg holes for both his Ambin pulse rifle and for a jetpack. So if you did want to include those, although it's worth pointing out, I don't believe Mando uses the Ambin pulse rifle over his shoulder in this particular look, and he definitely doesn't have his jetpack at this point in time. The flight suit underneath all the armor is in a gray plastic. That is accurate to what we see in the series, so that's completely fine. The sculpt has nice wrinkles and folds that give a lot more depth to it as opposed to just a flat look for the clothing there. You can see the layer for the carapace has a much lighter plastic, and then we have kind of an in-between for the other layers underneath. You can see that the padding on his front of his torso here is connected to the overlay for the bandolier and for the belts. As for his gauntlets here, these are just sculpted in brown. These don't seem to have any paint apps to them, but you can see this is where like his whistling birds would be over here. It's got a nice detail to it. It just doesn't have any paint deco to it. The hands are identical to what we see with that swappable hand there. You can see that they did paint the hand plating there, which is really nice, and they did paint the fingers on the gloves as well. Both of these are kind of resembling a trigger finger for the blaster, and then I guess just an offhand look here. As for the bandolier and belt overlay, you have a brown sculpt here, and it doesn't look like anything's really painted up towards the top, but but we do have all the little canisters on the front here painted in silver, and then we have the belt buckle and a lot of the rivets along the front of the belt painted in silver as well. That's great. We have a nice detailed leather looking sculpt for the blaster holster, and then you can see under that they did paint these lighter blue pieces for the padding that protects his hips. You can see they did also leave in the sculpt for the hook that holds the Darksaber, so that's nice. While there's no paint on the bandolier, on the back of the figure you can see they did paint the brown here for this padding on his lower back. Now a really cool detail here on this figure, you can see these charges on his belt. One of them does pop out. This has a little peg that pops out there. It would be nice if these had the little red detail in the middle for when they're lit up, but this does connect very nicely and it does pass the shake test. A really cool hidden feature on this figure. As for the legs, they get a little bit more plain. We just have more of that Beskar armor covering the thighs there, and again you can see all that awesome painted detail, those very minor paint hits in that silver that give it that extra detail, the extra battle damage, and then you can see more of that awesome sculpt for the flight suit underneath. As far as the knee armor goes, he has the Boba Fett style knee armor on the left leg. You can see that's done in like a sand blue. The back strap is painted in gray. However, personally I would have preferred if they did away with that and painted the silver for the knee rockets on the side here. As for his lower right leg, this is Imperial armor here that has been repurposed. You can see they did paint silver on all the canisters that go along there, as well as the brown for the strapping and the top of the armor piece. As for the left boot, you can see that's a little more plain. They did paint in a little bit more of a reddish brown this strap here, but the rest of it is just done in a plain brown sculpt. And then we get down to the boots, which are also done in brown. You can see the outsides of the treads are sculpted in, and they've got some nice leatherish detail to them. Overall, I'm really happy with the look of this figure. Maybe I would have preferred the helmet to just be a hair darker and as far as the sculpt goes, but I think that the metallic look to the plastic makes up for that for me. I think overall this is an amazing looking figure, definitely a worthy upgrade in the way of the sculpt. Very happy with this guy. Now let's take a look at Mando's articulation here. So him being a newly sculpted figure, there is obviously some reuse from previous Mandalorian figures like the Glavis Ringworld from the Book of Boba Fett and the Mines of Mandalore from Mando Season 3, but obviously those are newer figures as well, so this guy's going to have a lot of new tooling. As far as the head goes, he has a dumbbell neck, so there's a ball joint that goes into the top of the neck and a ball joint that goes into the head. He also has an additional ball joint that goes into the base of the neck, so you can get all kinds of range out of that. You can make Mando look down a really nice amount. He can also look up a good amount as well. You can get some really nice tilt out of this and some right and some left. In the shoulders, there are some butterfly joints hidden underneath the chest overlay, and those have some really nice range forward and back. He also has a hinge and swivel at the shoulders, so that gets you a hinge, which gets you well past that 90-degree mark. That's awesome to see, way better than most Black Series figures, which usually can only get you to about 90 degrees. He also obviously can swivel the shoulders a full 360 degrees. Just note, if you're planning to swivel those shoulders, just keep the shoulder armor with them if you're going all the way around, because you don't want to risk warping and tearing that plastic. Mando has a single jointed elbow, which has a hinge which gets you to a little past that 90-degree mark, pretty standard for Black Series, and we have a swivel at the top of the elbow. We also have a gauntlet swivel here, which is great. That applies to both arms. And then we have our ball jointed wrists, or roly-poly wrists, which have some awesome range. Great thing about these is they're omnidirectional as opposed to being limited to one axis of movement like a hinge and swivel. Mando's got a ball joint about halfway through the torso here, and that gives you some great added range. All the overlays do a great job of moving themselves out of the way so that they don't hinder that articulation. Then of course down at the hips we have another ball joint, and you can see again these pads on the hips here do a great job of moving themselves right out of the way so as not to hinder that articulation. This newer Mando does feature the newer hip joints, so they did away with the cut for the thigh swivel, and they feature this different hip joint which is supposed to emulate the same motion as a thigh swivel as well. So in addition to all the ball joint range, we do have some in and out. I will say the out is a little bit limited and the in is really good, but I think I would say that I'd prefer more out than in. Of course, better out than in, I'd always say, and I think that it is a little bit limited on the outward motion. That said, you still can get those hips to move out about 45 degrees, and that's pretty much what the human anatomy limitations are, so I don't know, it's kind of give and take for me. As far as the knees, we have a single jointed hinge, and that gets you to about that 90-degree mark, a little more than that. Again, pretty standard for Black Series. What I love about this though is that the knee armor is a free floating floating piece, so you can keep the knee armor actually covering the knee without losing any of that articulation range. Mando does feature a boot swivel, but it seems to only be applicable to the left leg. Maybe mine's just stuck, but I can't get this one to move at all. Then we have the Hasbro Classic at the ankles, which is the forward-facing pin for rocker, and our hinge, which gets you some decent forward and some really nice back as well. So overall, this is a little bit above the standard of what you can expect for Black Series articulation here in 2026, and the figure to me just looks amazing. A very worthy upgrade to an awesome character debut. Alright guys, let's take a look at Mando's accessories. So the first thing that I want to do here is show him off with that swappable hand. So with the ball jointed wrists, it's very easy. Just apply some gentle pressure and kind of twist back and forth, and you should be able to pop that hand off, exposing our ball joint, and then putting the other hand on is just as easy. Just again, be a little gentle with it. We don't want to risk ripping the peg, but thankfully the plastic that Hasbro uses on their figures is typically pretty malleable. I will say swapping that hand was definitely harder than most Black Series swappable hands are, although generally they are pretty few and far between. But once you've got that hand on, you can see you can still have got all the range that you would usually have with the other hands as well. And obviously you can use this as a thumbs up or hitchhiking hand as well. Like I had said before, this hand is made specifically to hold the vibro blade. So we'll kind of work the vibro blade into the hand, and it fits in there perfectly. It gets a nice stabbing motion to it. If you want to put it forward, you can have him pointing at someone with it, which is great. And here is Mando in a little bit more of a lower stance with that knife, maybe getting ready to fight Paz Vizsla. You can also get a really nice reverse grip on the knife, and it does pass the shake test just like it does in the regular grip as well. And once again, here's a nice one-handed knife holding pose here with the reverse grip. I think this looks great. The knife does have storage inside of Mando's right boot here. You can see you could put it with the blade facing towards his front. You can get a nice fit there. Of course, we can take a look at the blaster pistol as well. So in the holster, you can see the barrel of the blaster sticks through the holster, and that holds in there just with friction, and that holds in there very nicely. We can also remove the blaster pistol from the holster and have Mando hold that in his right hand. We can now have the blaster pistol holding hand on the figure, by the way. You can see that it's also a very nice grip. Here's Mando aiming down the sights, moving forward, and this figure is just very naturally posable. I love the silhouette that this figure gives off. Very easy to pose this guy. The articulation is buttery smooth. Here's Mando in a nice one-legged running pose. He's got a great center of gravity, and it's again very easy to balance. And just for comparison's sake, on the left here we have the original Mandalorian figure in this same debut look that came out back in 2019. I will say, handling both these figures side by side, you can tell just how far they've come in leaps and bounds on the engineering of these figures. The one thing I will say that the old one probably has over the new one are the little paint hits. You can see a lot more of the silver on the old one here, particularly on the bandolier, and then just little scuffs and dents across the armor. It's a little more plentiful on the old release versus the new one. And of course, the old figure does include the Ambin pulse rifle. That said, it does have the hard plastic cape and the double pinned knees. Those are features that the new one got rid of, and this figure definitely is better for it. I think I would have preferred if the helmet color was also the same color they went with on the old helmet, but you can see the shaping and the look of the helmet is just significantly better on this new one. So there's a lot of give and take, but ultimately I think I definitely very easily prefer this newer figure over the old one. Based on the posability and the sculpt and the engineering, I think that getting the new one is definitely the way to go. Overall, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this review. This is 1,000,000% a figure I recommend getting. He is such a welcome upgrade over the original version of this character in the same costume. I think this is definitely a figure you'll be satisfied with. But with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you're an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this review early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do here on YouTube, or you just want to support the YouTube channel more directly, you could also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion. For just 99 cents a month, it gives you access to exclusive badges, priority replies in my comment section. You get to vote on what I review next for the channel, just like the Patreon members do, and you get to check out all my reviews early here on YouTube. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, you could always head over to the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below, as well as links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking all whole units, fire at wheel. Squad 2, pick your targets. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. I'm hit. Where's the reinforcements?